Today's message from Reverend Tammy Mars, Seaside's Executive Director, was recorded June 26, 2016, and while Reverend Christian Sorensen was out of town. It's titled, Aging as a Spiritual Practice, subtitled, Everything Ages, Everything Changes, and When Lightning Strikes. The intro music is from Ray Davis, the guest artist today, and Ray's music can be found at raydavismusic.com. Come visit us sometime at seasidecenter.org, and you can join us in Encinitas, California, where always we have great music, a spirited message, and a joyful, loving, vibrant community that awaits you.
Na 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 na
That is Ray Davis. Grooving us. Thank you. Thank you. Today the talk is aging as a spiritual practice, right? And it's going to be kind of like a reflection of our lives and that. And it just hit me. I said, grooving us? Is that aging or what? It's groovy. No. I can dig it, right? Hi, everyone. I'm Reverend Tammy Mars. It's my joy to be with you here today as we are going to be talking today about aging as a spiritual practice. And I think that's really a very, very important subject because everything changes and everything ages. And so I'm going to be putting a little bit of focus on the years after age 50, but the truth is that we're always aging. I'm thinking back to even like when you were 30, you couldn't party like you did when you were 20. I mean, about age 30, 35, you had to like set aside the whole next day so that you could recover and so that, your body was okay. It was like difficult, And even when you were in your 20s, you couldn't do sports and athletics and things like you did in high school. You think you can. You still in your head think you can, but you know that you're not in that kind of shape to do that again. And I was thinking, even when I was in my teens, there was things that I couldn't do that I could do when I was maybe 7 or 8. I grew up, my mom had me in gymnastics, and at that time it was acrobatics. It wasn't gymnastics, it was acrobatics at the time. And I clearly remember being able to hold my feet over my shoulders, turn my head sideways, and roll. It was called Seaside roll, and I was in gymnastics in high school, and I would have died to be able to do that again, So the truth is that we're always changing. Everything's always changing, and we're always aging. But there's something about in our society that puts more attention on it when we get over 50 and we start seeing some different changes that are happening in us. But in our heads, our soul doesn't age, doesn't change. I had a girlfriend who, in her mid-50s, was at a park and decided to do a cartwheel. She was in a cast for like 4 months. She pulled every ligament out of her body and everything, you know what I mean? It's like, but in our heads, it's like, oh yes, let's just jump and do a cartwheel, you know what I mean? Because we used to be able to do that. So there is something that we have to be cautious about when we're 50 that we need to ask ourselves one more time, should I really be doing this right now? Or how long was it since I did do that? And then maybe pass on it, and just see where we're at. But we're always moving and evolving, and there's really stages that happen in aging. We're going to be doing a class, Aging as a Spiritual Practice. It actually starts this coming Thursday, and it goes for 4 weeks. It's just a small little summer class, 4-week class. It's from 6 to 8, and it's just that. It's aging as a spiritual practice. It's about becoming conscious. It's about becoming aware and utilizing these tools that we have in this aspect, in this part of our world. Because, how often have we kind of walked through and gone, why did I come in this room? What are my reading glasses doing in the refrigerator? You know? It's a little bit softer. Do these lumps have to be here? You know? We look at it and our hair is getting gray and things are just changing for us, and that's okay. It's about allowing it to be okay. For this is a new territory that we're going on. And so I just want to give us some insights today so that we can kind of maybe navigate through this unfamiliar ground from a little bit better way. But most importantly, what I want to do is to remind us of our spiritual truth, because we've been in this teaching for a long time, most of us have. We know the power of our thought. We know we're the creators of our experience. And we know, as the Buddha says, that we can have peace of mind no matter what our circumstance is. But oftentimes we forget. So they talk about the stages, and the very first stage that happens, and talking a little bit about 50 and above, they say 0 to 50 is about learning, and 50 and over is about living. So when there's a stage that happens, which is probably the greatest gift and the most profound thing that can happen for us. And they call it lightning strikes. And that's the time when you realize that you can actually see the end. Up until now, you knew it was there, you theorized about it, it was over there. But now, when you can actually see the end, something shakes, something shifts in your entire body. And you start living in the now, you start appreciating what is. You have a whole different eyesight with that. And different things can start it. It might be a divorce. It might be retirement. It could be a birth of a grandchild. It could be any number of things. For me, it was an illness. I'm 58, and last year I had a bout of colon cancer, which was, I had to go through the treatments of radiation and chemo. And it was difficult. Praise God, I did have that strong essence in my body of who I was and feeling that I was strong, because I did get to move through it pretty easily. But it shifted me, and it changed me, and it changed me forever, and it changed me for the better. And the reason that it did is that I can now see in a way that I never was able to see before. I live and I can see, I'm in gratitude for so much more that's going on. And I'm actually picking and choosing how I'm feeling. And I'm cognitive at all times about the fact that I am alive and that today is a good day, and I'm just from a different perspective. And I could have theoried about that before, but I didn't know it, and I know it at a really deep level, and I'm grateful for it. And so when that lightning strikes, when we have that shift that's in our life that wakes us up, and so that we step up to attention and say, I'm not going to waste any more of this. I'm not going to take it for granted. In fact, I'm not only that, in our teaching, we're actually going to consciously direct it, consciously guide it. When lightning strikes, after that point of lightning strikes, the next step that happens to us is that we start looking and learning how to cope with the changes that are happening with us. We're not just simply noticing them, but we're actually looking at them. For instance, our appearance changes. That's a big thing. When you were younger and you didn't even have to think about it, and your beauty was there and your body was tight and everything was wonderful, you didn't think about it. But now, it merits looking at that you have changed, that you have maybe some wrinkles and some gray hair, and that you're really different. We went to Maui just this year, earlier in April, and after my lightning struck, after my change, up until that point, it seemed like I felt like Oprah. I was constantly on a diet. I was constantly trying to look like I used to look. I still had that image in my head, and finally I said, no, I'm not doing it. I put my bathing suit on, and I thought, the measurement of my wisdom, the measurement of my joy, the measurement of my confidence, and the measurement of my radiance is way bigger than the measurement of my waist size at this time. Go God, go God. And it's so true. So instead of saying, I'm going to hide over here and hope they don't make it, it's like, look at me now. Watch me walk. And when you think about it, isn't, no matter whatever age you are, and you can look at these younger people on the beach or at a pool or whatever it is, and you can look at them, and it's the ones that are confident, the ones that are filled with joy, the ones that are present and comfortable in their own body. Those are the ones that are beautiful. So that beauty didn't change at all. It didn't change at all. We're the ones that addressed it to our waist size, not the world. We can stand that way and watch as we look out there. You know, and not only is our appearance is changing and stuff, but our body is changing. We're not as strong as we used to be, and we don't have the abilities that we used to be. And as I joked at the very beginning, sometimes we forget and we think we do. A couple of years ago, Rick and I, my husband and I, decided that we were going to go get our surfboards and our wetsuits, and we were going to go out past the break, and because the surfers out there look so at peace, and it's like this is their God. They just sit out there and bounce around. So we're going to jump on our boards and we're going to paddle out, and we're just going to sit there and just enjoy it, and all of that. So we paddle out, and we finally get outside the break, and we are so exhausted. I thought I was going to drown. I couldn't get it. I was like hanging on the board. I was like, oh my gosh, this is like so exhausting. And I'm just laying there trying to get a grip. And up comes this like 18-year-old, 5'5", 140-pound lifeguard to come save me. Now, the lifeguard tower is like a block down there. I don't know how he saw me out there, and I'm looking at him like, really? And he like throws me his little orange thing, I'm like, oh my gosh. So I'm like, hey, I'm cool. I'll just ride my little surfboard in, But, there's people that surf every day and that are used to it. But, when we started putting the math together, we probably hadn't been out on a surfboard in 30 or 40 years. So somehow I tricked myself into thinking that I could do this. And then I had to walk into the beach, and all the people are like, oh, that's the girl that was saved. I'm like, just let me go home. I just want to go home. You know what I mean? And so, our abilities and our strengths change, and knowing that and recognizing that and actually being okay with it. Now I go to waist deep water with my boogie board and my 8-year-old grandson, and I'm cool. It just works for me. I can get up, everything's well, So it's just like, know what you can do, but letting go of that, the me that I used to be, the strength that I used to be, the ability that I used to have, that's a letting go. It's something that we need to be honest with ourselves with and realize and know that, yes, that's okay. We have our health. Our health changes. These bodies, bless their hearts, they've carried us so graciously for so long, and they get tired. And so, our health, we have to watch our blood pressure or our blood sugars or our hormones, for God's sakes. I mean, it used to be, I'd have a little raging hormone in my time of the month for a day or two. But then, the change happens, appropriately worded. And then it lasted like 8 to 10 years where I was having hormones raging. My whole body was going through this like massive change, and I was like on for the ride. There was like nothing I could do, It's just like, and so no matter what we think, God has a different plan for us, and what's going and what our body's doing in the evolution of it. But the best news about all of that is, as I started with here, that the Buddha says it doesn't even matter what our circumstance is, that we can have peace of mind, we can feel good, we can know our God, our limitlessness, no matter what is happening to our physical body. And that's really important for us to remember. But what happens is something starts hurting, or we get an issue. My hip hurts, my shoulder hurts, my back hurts, or whatever, and it grabs all of our attention. And it grabs it and it holds it because it's hurting. Whenever something's hurting or something's not working right, it has our attention. But part about our spiritual journey, and part of what we've spent our lifetime learning and realizing and knowing, is the power of our thoughts. That if we can reprogram our thoughts, we can reprogram everything. And so when it's hurting or something's going on, we don't have to say, I'm hurting, therefore my day is not good. We can actually compartmentalize that and say, all right, my back hurts or my shoulder hurts or something hurts, but I still have my joy. I still have my family. I still have my heart still full of love. It's still beautiful outside. And consciously decide, consciously say, and make the choice that I'm going to see the good anyways, because there is still good present. But society and what I call collective consciousness or race consciousness has come forth, and it really has put a lot of thoughts and a lot of burden, if you will, on our mental abilities, because they've said it looks like this, it's going to be like this. But that's the greatest thing that we have in this teaching, is that it can be anything that we want it to be. And we can feel any way that we want to feel at any given moment. The other thing that we move towards is purpose. You know, what's our purpose? Maybe we're retiring, or maybe we're stopping working, or maybe we're just starting working. It's like, you know, I have this one book, What Are Old People For? You know, it's like, but it's like we have a purpose. And our purpose is wisdom. Our purpose is sharing. In fact, what we really have is something that anchors in everything that's happening around here. I wanted to share a little reading from Marianne Williamson. And if you don't have this book, this is a phenomenal book. I've been studying this aging for this class and stuff for probably the last 6 months. And this book is anchored in our spiritual teaching. This book is so spiritual and brings the spiritualness, not just the statistics, to what it's about. It's called The Age of Miracles by Marianne Williamson. I think there's maybe 10 copies still left in the bookstore at this time. But I want to share with you when they talk about purpose and what our purpose is. How can we reframe this? She says, I remember when I was young hearing Otis Redding sing, "Sitting here resting my bones," and thinking, who needs to rest their bones? Of course, I know. And when I first had the thought one day that I was just sitting there resting my bones, I began to panic. I thought it was all over if my bones were tired. But then I realized something, like a guilty secret. I was enjoying just sitting here. I wasn't attending a Buddhist retreat trying to enjoy sitting here. I was really enjoying it. I was enjoying the kinetic experience of a rocking chair in a way that I had never thought was possible before. Oh, these things actually have a purpose. I didn't feel the need to get up, to go somewhere else, or to do anything at all. With less adrenaline came less distraction. Nice. I felt no need to justify my existence by achieving or performing a thing. And that's when I realized it. This is very different, but it isn't bad. I was sitting with some friends one evening, and their 20-something-year-old daughter came in and said, "You guys are so boring. You never go out." To which all three of us responded in unison, "We were out, but now we're in." Nice. The highest, most creative work is the work that's done of consciousness at every age. The most powerful work is the work that's done in consciousness. How intelligent is our God that slowed us down so that we can do the consciousness work in an even greater way? So then in slowing down, we're not doing less, we're actually doing more. Having slowed down physically, we're in a better space to rev up psychically. We're going slower in order to go deeper. Here. You know, that's so true. And so then we ask ourselves the questions, well, how do we share this wisdom? How do we share what we do? And we can never forget the fact that just one in consciousness, one in peace, has the effect that ripples out into our world. One that sees a young person or a grandchild or an individual and knows the truth of them and shares who they are and shares their peace with them and shares their wisdom with them is making a difference in our world. The last thing which really transforms us is in this change of accepting what is, and we can't get away without addressing it, and that is loss, grief, death. Death is the greatest teacher that there is. If any of us has lost our parents, that was the greatest last lesson they gave us. Was they showed us how to die in grace, die in dignity. What I know from the illness that I had when my body was brought all the way to the level where I didn't have any strength left, and I was just at that bare level of healing. What I knew was that God was there. I didn't have to do a thing. That I had a peace that passes understanding. I didn't worry. I didn't desire anything. I just had this oneness and this sense and this feeling that all was well and all was God. And I just had a deep, deep peace that I can't even describe it. But isn't that the wisdom of Spirit? It's the wisdom of Spirit. I mean, Spirit gives us that when we're really stressed out. Spirit knows how to take care of it. It makes us fall asleep. Or when we're scared or angry, Spirit knows exactly what to do. It allows us to cry and release. Spirit always knows what it's doing as it's guiding and leading us on this path, no matter what. And so as we learn to cope with those that we have lost, and we reconcile that, and we come up with the perspective that serves us when those things start to occur, and we learn how to grieve, it's powerful. We had a historical event here at Seaside this week. We have a congregant that's been a longtime family member, Sharon Trevette. Many of you know her. She was diagnosed with ALS, which is a disease that affects your breathing and makes it very difficult to breathe. It's not a very nice disease to have. She had an episode where she was in ICU, and I remember I went to go see her. This was in mid-April. And she says, I'm ready to go. She was 69 years old. She says, I'm ready. I'm ready to go. And the right to life for California, I don't know if you all have heard, but on June 9th, the right to life was passed and is available here in California. And what that means is that you have the right to end your own life if you're consciously do so. You can do so. They have a method and procedures and stuff. It was very difficult to even find a doctor that would do it, because obviously Blue Shield doesn't have them. You had to go find an individual doctor that was willing to do this, and they were able to. She had some very close friends with her. What happens is that you have to call the doctor. The patient has to call the doctor themselves. He comes out and does an interview with you. He makes you wait 15 days. You have to call him again, the patient does, and he interviews you again. At that time, he'll give you a prescription. The prescription is Senecal, which is, I think that's how you say it. It's Senecal. Yeah. It's a sleeping pill. It's a sleeping pill that's been around since the 50s. And he just gives you the appropriate dose. And how it works is that within 5 to 7, 8 minutes, you fall asleep. And within 30 to 45 minutes, everything shuts down and you transition to the other side. You see, with us, we're lucky as baby boomers and all of this, because we're a large percentage of the generation that's coming forth. And now all of the companies, ARP and all of the major companies are coming out and creating things and being very aware and very conscious, and for us to be able to progress to these golden years with all the things necessary and things that will help us in great ways. Housing and all kinds of things that are coming forth. But the right to die, it was with such dignity. She knew she had 2 months left. Everyone got to come and see her and love her up and be with her and say goodbye to her. She never wavered once. She knew this is what she needed to do. She was able to write her own memorial service, which will be on Tuesday, July 12th. She wrote her own service. She put her pictures together. She put her photo montage. She put her music to it. She sent out an email right when she was done. She pre-wrote it, and she died at 3:05 is when she made her transition. And a number of her friends got emails that said, "I've gone. I'll see you on the other side." And it was absolutely beautiful. So we even have the ability to choose our own transition, to choose our own passing. And like I said, for all of us here and all of us that were involved in it, this was really big. This was historic. I mean, we felt it in our body on that day that she passed. I mean, working up to this, it was a lot to process, a lot to think through. But I think it was brave and it was gracious and it was a beautiful lesson that she gave us. So as we move through, as we come to terms with it all. And as we come to terms with it all, what we realize is our bodies are our bodies, but our spirits are our spirits. And they never die, and they don't age at all. So as we're moving through that, the next thing that we do is we have to adapt. We have to adapt to all that's new. Because growing old isn't a punishment. Growing old is a gift. It is something to honor. It is something that was given to us if we're fortunate enough to have a long life. We've been fortunate. And knowing the power of our thought and the power of our minds and the power of our ability to create, and we know that we're the creators with our life, then instead of putting our attention to where society has placed it, let's consciously choose how we're going to feel. Let's consciously choose how we're going to think. Let's make sure that we're in balance with our thoughts, that if we're hurting or having a difficult time, let's be awake and conscious enough to choose and to remember to know the truth, to choose to do something that serves us, that builds us, that brings us back to the light as we make a difference. Because God doesn't age. God doesn't know how old we are. The principles are the principles, and they always work. And they're always there. That we are the co-creators with everything. And God never stopped dispensing our good. Sometimes we forget. And we think, well, our good's on a limited basis now. That's not true. God does not stop dispensing its good at the same rate that it always did before, for and through and as us. We may be limited because we're not in our youth, but we have a limitless God. Limitless. And so as we remember that and as we know that, as we gracefully go through these times of change, changing bodies, changing consciousness, and change, let us adapt. Let us become conscious and aware. And as I mentioned, that's what our class is going to be about. It's going to be about looking at our lives and celebrating it. It's going to be looking at those areas that maybe we've got caught. And it's about reframing and coming up with new ways of looking at things, of reprogramming our lives. Because when we reprogram our lives, we reprogram everything. So consciously choosing how we're going to think. And lastly, it's about appreciation. It's about being grateful. Our bodies have done a darn good job carrying us here. We often think of, and that's another part of the race collective consciousness, we think of it used to be better back then. But let me read you something from Marianne's book, which is quite eye-opening. She said, "One day I looked at myself in the mirror and indulged in a full-scale self-pity. Oh, I remember when I was young, I thought. My skin was tighter, my breasts were higher, my rear was firmer, my entire body was voluptuous. I had so much more energy, and I practically glowed. I wish I had realized what I had when I had it. And now I'll never have it again." Then another voice came through to her head. She said, "Oh, Marianne," it said, "shut up." Let me give you a rundown of what it was like when you were younger. Your nerves were jangled, your heart was restless, your mind was disordered, your appetites were addictive, your love affairs were tragic, your talents were squandered, your opportunities were wasted, and you were never at peace. What you did then, in fact, was exactly what you're doing right now. You kept thinking that if only things were different, you'd be happy. Now, it's if only you were still young. But reality check, in those days you looked good, but you didn't know it. You had everything, but you didn't appreciate it. You had the world at your feet, but you didn't realize it. You know what it was like, and it was like now. It was just like now. Thus began my recovery from youth-itis. I realize it's nothing more than a mental habit to idealize another time. It's a mental habit to idealize another time, another condition, another reality, as simply a way to avoid the reality of my life right now. Can we be present? Can we be in the moment right now? She goes on to say, you may be a little depressed that you are no longer young, but you are ecstatic. You are no longer clueless. And so this is really important for us. it's really important for us to apply this very, very powerful teaching that you are what you think about. You're the creator of your experience. That doesn't go into denial about what's happening to our body and that our body can't do the things that it used to do. It's not about grieving and mourning that, but it's more about catching ourselves and saying, what can I do? Who am I now? It's no longer about trying to live with who I used to be or who I thought I was or who I wanted to be. It's who am I now? And am I going to stand gloriously? Am I going to stand with confidence? Am I going to shine my wisdom? Am I going to let everyone know the powerful, wonderful me that I am? Because every single wrinkle in every part of our being already has on it some wisdom and some messages that are meant to come forth. That's why we're still here. And so I just invite you to remember, because the spiritual path is that. It's about remembering. It's about remembering the truth. It's about consciously choosing what we're going to think. It's about consciously choosing the life we're going to live. So I just invite all of us to become awake and aware. For our God is good. Our God is limitless. Our God never left us alone. Our God is wise. Our God is guiding us on this journey. Our God is dispensing to us an incredible amount of good. An incredible amount of good. God has not watched us age or taken away any of it. It is here in its fullness. So let's use it like we chose to use it when we were younger and as we knew we could. Let's be all that we can be and share it generously with the world. So let us take these words within. As I invite you to close your eyes, because we can close our eyes to this outside world and we get the beauty and the gift of moving into that space that is infinite possibilities, that is all brand new. It is that new place of creation where we set into motion that which we want, that which we want to reprogram, that which we want our life to be like and to feel like and to know. Right here, right now. In fact, we make all of our creations in the present moment. It wasn't made before. It's everything that we are thinking right here, right now, that is creating our future. And so it's with that I just know for each of us, God, a powerful God, a loving God, a gracious God, a giving God, an incredible God, and an incredible life and an incredible light that has guided and supported every single step of the way, no matter what is before us. It's with this truth and this knowingness that I am just grateful as I release this word into that infinite yes with excitement as I watch the universe and the magic of this universe come forth with that which I am asking for. I watch it attract it to me. How grateful I am to know this truth, to be on this spiritual journey, and to share it with those I come in contact with. And so it is. Amen.
Such a long way home. brought you to this place. You cry for mercy and you long for grace. Feel the love, feel the light. Won't you come in from the cold? 'Cause all are welcome here. Feel the joy, feel the peace, and the comfort of home. 'Cause all are welcome here. Yes, all are welcome here. Here.
All Are Welcome Here, from the album Path of Light, was co-written by Peggy Lebo and Reverend Christian Sorensen. It's available at www.peggylebo.com.